Hello everyone, this is part 2 of my little Crusader Kings 2 tutorial. As before, we're playing this lovely gentleman, the Earl of Dublin. And last time I showed you the interface and most of the little doodads. So now we're going to start to do things with our council. I'd like to expand, so I'm going to have my Chancellor fabricate a claim on Kildare. Claims show up here if you have any. It's an excuse to go to war. You need to have excuses to go to the war. See? I can't declare war on him, because I need a valid casus belli. I'm going to have my marshal train up some troops. He'll collect me taxes. Taxes is definitely a good thing to start with. You need that early money. I will spy. I'll dispatch my... Emperors always get the most tech points, so I'll send them off to where the Kaiser of the Holy Roman Empire is hiding. And because I don't want to be... I don't want anyone to say, get me excommunicated, I'm going to send my bishop to hang out in Rome and suck up to the Pope. It's a good start to things. I'm going to set that to 3. And we'll actually start the game now. There we are. The Duke in Hungary, he agreed to let my daughter, his sister, the princess, has agreed to marry my son. Excellent. So they're married, living in Dublin. Hopefully they'll have children to continue on my line. Here's an example of an event. Basically, in this case, my son has been lying to me. I get various options of what I can do to him. I can be oppressed, in which case he gains a trait. You can highlight over and see what the trait does. But I'm going to talk to him about being honest and hope for the best. So, when you are trying to fabricate a claim, it takes time. As you can see in the right here, claim fabricated, 14.24% chance a year. So it could take me a little while. In fact, we're going to speed things up a little. There's different kinds of claims you can get. You can inherit claims. So if I were, say, playing a prince, a younger prince to a king, and the king died, and my brother took over as king, and I was his. I would have claims to the kingdom, which would give me an excuse to start a war for that kingdom. That's usually abusing that system is how you expand amongst your own into foreign lands of your own religion. When you're not dealing with your own religion, mostly what you can just do is do holy wars. So I can pick a fight with pretty much any Muslim or the Hindus or any of those other guys, or the Tengri if they show up for duchy level regions. It's all explained when you highlight into it, so there's that at least. My son's becoming zealous. It's a decent enough trait to have. There we are. My son has had a daughter, so I've got a grandkid. This is a temporary trait, ill, but she is unhealthy, so she might pass away while young, which would be terrible. Down here, there's a ledger, so you can bring up a bunch of information stuff if you're curious about things. This just knocks you back to your home province. Oh, my wife's pregnant. That's always nice. You can find specific titles. My second son is of age, so I'm going to get him a wife. There we are. I will marry him to this princess as well. So if I were to look for, let's see, I'm curious about the Kingdom of Ireland. So I put in Ireland, it comes up. There's the kingdom. It's not held by anyone. This is what you need to create it. You have to hold at least 2 duchies. You need 200 piety. You need a bunch of cash. History. So back in 846, it was briefly held by King Mael Sheshnail of Ireland, but then he passed away, or could pass things on. So my spy master has gotten me some tech points. Always useful. If you can upgrade something, it'll show up as a little, it'll be kind of goldish. Oh, peasants are upset at me trying to get taxes out of them. It was a shame. Now normally, if you have an undeveloped region, you want to focus first on building up your income. Oh, I've had a daughter. That's nice. She's at the age of 6, you can start giving them a proper education. I'm gonna speed things up again, because I really want to get this title going. There's my dear old dad. I'm of course set to inherit his lands. So again, another event where I'm taking for my son that I'm taking care of. I will take care of him. He's now brave. Obviously, there's a bunch of different kind of traits. I'll just show off. There's these green ones, which are virtues. This case being temperate, showing moderation. People like those generally. Then there's the red ones, which are sins. This case, lustful. Some of them you kind of want instead. I really like having lustful increases your character's fertility. As I said before, the leftmost is your education. It goes from... It's hard to see, but there's a tiny little star or plus sign there at the bottom. It's a plus sign, sorry. They go from 1 to 4. I've got the worst level of education as a warrior, but it's what I am. Gray ones are kind of neutral. Yeah, sure. I become Wroth. Let's see if I can find something to show. All right, these on the left are kind of genetic traits, things you're born with, right? This guy was just born pretty. These shields are hobbies you pick up, right? So this guy's a scholar. There's a bunch of different ones. Things like being a genius are particularly nice. Keep the peasants. Alright, my son's turned out to be greedy. Yeah, he's picking on the peasants more. That's fine. He's not arbitrary. That's a terrible trait. Penalties to your stats and makes people like you less. Its reverse is just, which is a great stat. Now, Ireland's a nice place to start because you don't have any direct enemies for the most part. I'm going to buy my wife this fancy horse. Makes her fall in love with me. You can cheat around and sleep around in this game, so it's all what you want to do. In this case, I'm lustful, so it wouldn't be surprising if I had the option pop up. Here we are, so another little event. I will... fancy painter. I will support him by buying his painting. So, these lines are places that have been sieged. So I'm going to show you more later on. But basically it means, my nephew has come of age. Well, that's fine. I'll get him married. He can marry... not a lot of options. We'll get him engaged. If you pick someone under 16, it's a betrothal. My other son's of age. This woman has 2 genetic penalties. She's a hunchback and she's born with a stutter. But so yeah, that's not very good. Here we are. You can marry this lady. Betrothal happened. Excellent. So, when your heir gets married, you have some options that pop up. You can get prestige or money. I'd like a little more prestige right now. So in this case, oh, there we go. So, my goon has successfully pressed a claim for me. Well, give me the chance. If I spend a bunch of cash, I can get a claim on that territory, which I will do. So now I've got a claim on that land. Pause for a moment. So he's defending against a revolt because he's allied to the petty nearby king, which also means his armies are away. So I'm going to declare war to claim his territory. These flags pop up, so I can call in my allies. So I'm going to try and call in my dad for this. Summoning up my armies. Assigning the very best warriors I have, as much as I can, to lead each flank. And I'll march into his territory. Dad's going to support me, which is good. Right, so this is one of those events. So I'm going to try and help this guy not commit suicide by talking to him. And I talk him out of it, gaining a point of diplomacy. Excellent, go me. So sieging takes time. You can just highlight over it and it tells you when the morale drops to 0%, they give up. There's a plot afoot. That's what this. So I could have this guy imprisoned. I can ask him to end the plot, etc., etc. I will try to end the plot. In fact, I'm going to set it so that my Spy Master automatically tries to stop plots that happen. If he can't, it'll just stay up here as a little warning. I've got a new Marshal, which is good. Higher stats are always better. So, the longer you have your armies out... Oh, excellent, the Pope likes me more. The higher a penalty you get with your relations. Various lords don't like it when you have their soldiers away too long. So... Since I successfully bested or sieged his territory, sometimes you'll capture prisoners. Let's check out him out here. But I'm going to take out his army. In this game, outnumbering the enemy always is the main way you want to go into fights. There's other factors that you'll want to pay attention to. I'll move to the terrain feature here for a moment. So here, example. Plains. You get no penalties for fighting in plains, but there's rivers, major rivers. So if I was in this conduct here, and I was trying to attack someone in Thomond, if I marched straight from there to here, I would get a penalty for crossing the river. There's also major rivers, right? Here's the Seine. So that's an even bigger penalty for crossing it. Here's mountains. So obviously if you fight in the mountains, the defender gets a big bonus. When you can, you want to try and lull the enemy into attacking you. And there's different tactics you can use for that. It can be the deciding factor between two evenly matched forces. In this case, in the plains, there's no river between the two. Sheer numbers are enough to win it, barring the guy having a remarkable assembly of units. So there we go, 100% war score, which means I can enforce my demands. I've taken his territory. Earl of Dublin 1. Right. I will of course send my soldiers home, and now I control 2 territories. Send my vassal off to the next place I'd like to conquer. And I can now create a duchy. I can make the Duchy of Terra. But it will cost me money. You need to have at least 51% of a duchy to create it. But higher ranks are always better. Touching on the other law systems. So, if I was... hold on a second. Another fancy painting, sure. I want to nominate my son again. Which one's my son? Domhnall. There's my son. We'll nominate him. So yeah, the various people in my court, they apparently are supporting my nephew instead of me, which happens. Pope's loving me. This is good. I'll assign my training troops. Basically, if I had to hire, if my vassals liked me more, they liked me pretty good actually, they would vote for me. So I'm voting for him. He's got a mayor supporting him. He's got other people supporting him, which is fine. So I'm going to create that title I was telling you about, the duchy. I get 200 prestige. Cost me a lot of money though. But now I am a petty king. The petty king of Terra. But it's a step up. Once again, I'm going to nominate someone. I will nominate my son as my heir. Kids to educate. Oh, my granddaughter. So when my son wants land, I'm going to tell him no. If you're a gavel kind, you have to, whenever you die, it splits up your titles amongst all your kids. So if I was the count of 2 territories, it would give one son a county and another son a county. If I had no sons and just daughters, it would split up my titles amongst my daughters. If I had one son and a bunch of daughters, it would give all my titles to a single daughter. Upgrade a new court chaplain. Usually they'll come tell you if they're better than someone, and they'll recommend you go with them. So I've got my new guy, who I'm going to... Where is he? Well, of course, send to Rome. One of my daughter-in-laws has died of pneumonia. I will have this guy get remarried to a French princess. Always good. So... I'm being aided to help... Right, so he's calling me to a war against the King of Brittany. I accept. Now this is one of the things you got to be aware of in this game, is that you can kind of just ignore these things. My son wants to be... Don't... Hold on. He wants to be my new steward. He's a better steward, so I will accept. And send my son to collect me taxes. So one of the things you can do is you can just kind of ignore these things. I've agreed to help, but if I don't actually send anyone, the game won't penalize you. It can't really track that you haven't fulfilled your obligations. Now, one of the other ways you can use to trim your succession issues is in religion. If depending on what your faith is, etc., etc. In this case, I can appoint successors to the temples in my lands, to the bishops. If I make one of my sons the successor to a bishop, he is removed from the order of succession. That's one of the things you can use to trim things. They get all upset about that, though. And I've got tanistry at the moment, so I'm not too worried. Still waiting for Dad to die. Dad's doing pretty good, though. But when he dies, I will get all of his fancy lands. Give me a good step. So, down here it's tracking. Got the king and me versus the king of Aragon is helping. The Breton claim on Normandy. So in this case, we are the defenders. He started a war for all of this land. It's the highlighted area. But we're going to win it. Anyhow, this is part 2 of my series. Feel free to ask some questions if you're not sure about something. I'm going to continue to try to use my best wits to take over Ireland, and we'll see what I can show you on the way. Talk to you all soon.